Hey, hey, welcome back, Lumio lovers. It's your Lumio team. We have myself, Asha, Mish. Where are you located today? At the airport?
Hi, I am at the airport in Houston on my way to Corpus Christi.
Awesome, always on the move. And Lois, where are you logging in from?
I'm in a very soggy San Antonio today. It is very rainy.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's good to see you both. I'm so glad to be back. And today's live stream is going to be a good one. It's all about Shout It Out. And I personally love Shout It Out. It's a great way to give a voice to students in the classroom. And we're going to show you some really cool ways to use Shout It Out for all grade levels and subject matters. So, Mish, let's jump into your lesson because I'm super excited to see what you have.
Thank you. Yeah, so we're super excited to see so many of you guys last week at Lumio Palooza. And one thing that I kept hearing over and over again is we like Shout It Out, but how can I use it in my grade or my subject? So I thought that I'd bring this to your attention today. Shout It Out happens to be one of my favorite features of Lumio because it really offers a different entry point for students to be able to participate in the discussion if maybe they're not so inclined to raise their hand, but you as the teacher, you know they may know the answer, you know they may want to participate, but raising their hand, maybe not their forte. So this is a really great way to get them engaged and also as the teacher to be able to kind of document those good conversational pieces as well. So we can start with something super basic of what did you have for breakfast? So this is a very simple one question shout it out. So on my screen here, you see that I just have a blank page as my students here, Lois and Asha, are submitting their responses. And as soon as they do here, I'll show you a couple of things. What did you miss today?
Well, I had yogurt. What about
I
you,
had
Asha?
oatmeal. I'm actually just trying to find a picture of some yummy oatmeal so I can pop that in there.
Oh, you guys had some healthy
So
breakfast.
do we do brown sugar?
I love brown sugar and cinnamon in mine.
Sounds
Hmm.
delicious.
So as the ladies are working on their responses here, a couple of things that I can do when their responses do come up, and I will show you. As the teacher, I can go to my settings gear here on the left, and I can toggle on and off display names. Again, working with those students and maybe will be more inclined to participate. If their answer is anonymous, I'll just get a legend here that lets me know which icon belongs to who. Additionally, if a student does submit something that's inappropriate, I can very easily drag it to the trash can over here to the left. Another thing that I really like to do and shout it out is as responses come in, the responses are movable around your screen. And the reason I like to do that is I move them and I categorize them. And then I have my students actually figure out what my categories are. So just a little way to level up or shout it out. So it looks like Asha, she has a picture of her oatmeal here. And as you saw, the images she brought in is quite small. I can click on it and then toggle through this way. Here's Lois. Lois, what did you bring in a picture of here?
Okay. So that's not yogurt, but my son actually was recently in Japan and that was a sumo meal they had.
Oh, that's
Mm.
interesting. That is on my bucket list for sure. So that's a very quick and simple. What did you have for breakfast today? A very easy way to use a shout it out. A quick little morning check-in. So during one of my Lumio Palooza
Love that.
sessions, I had some primary teachers and they were like, how can we use shout it out with little kids? So on this screen here, you see that I've got a few different questions. I brought in images as my background for what is the first letter of fox, the middle letter in bug, the last letter in cow, and then spell that last word being rat. Now, as a beginning of the year kindergarten teacher, I probably would not put all these up at the same time. That's a lot for the students to look at. They maybe not be readers yet. So this is an activity that you would do as a whole group. And then maybe you'll start out small by just having one of these on the screen at a time. So maybe it'll just be like that first breakfast question. I'll just have a picture of the fox and I'll say, what's the first letter in fox? And you'll see that as Lois and Asha submitting their responses, those are going the into each of the categories here. So here's a really fun way that I would use this with kindergarten students.
Now that's a really great way to get those letter sounds going too, right?
So many different ways, right? So as you're going through the year, you start with those first letter sounds, you move on to the middle letter, last letter, and ultimately the goal is so they can sound out words. So this is just a great way to use that. And again, beginning of the year, I probably would just do one of these at a time, wouldn't bring all four of these up on one screen. Another fun way to use this with the little kiddos in primary classrooms is doing a shapes scavenger hunt. So as you saw when we did the breakfast activity, Lois and Asha were able to bring in pictures as their responses versus words. When I'm creating the shout it out, which I'll show you at the end of our time here today, how you can choose for student responses to be either images or text. Here I'd have my students participate by finding a picture of a circle, a square, and a triangle. Again, great things to do in a primary classroom with Shout It Out if maybe typing out full responses is not yet where they're at. Kind of going on the theme of math here, I loved doing math and number talks in my classroom. So if this is your first time seeing one of these, you would just bring up an image, not a lot of context that you'd give, and the students would kind of answer the question, what do you notice? So in this picture, I would think maybe they're going to do some multiplication. Maybe they're counting the rows and the columns. And then once they figure that out to count how many, instead of counting each individually, maybe they would do the multiplication and then subtract the 3 that are missing right here. Alternatively, they can see how much it would cost because you can see here in the picture, it also tells them that it's $4 for each basket. Looks like Lois said that some are missing. That's a really great observation. 3 bins are missing. We see some berries. So lots of different responses that can come up from just one picture. This is a really great way to get students to engage, get their math talk going, those math terms, vocabulary, a really great activity for your ELL students. Lois said she can't afford berries with her allowance. Berries are really expensive. And you go through them in like a split second. You just open the container and then all of a sudden it's gone. And just as a reminder, something,
So
it's
true.
so true. One thing that I wanted to quickly remind you is that if there's a response that's inappropriate, Ash, I'm just going to pick on you here for a second. You can very quickly just drag a response right into that trash can. And it's that simple to just quickly delete it off the screen. Maybe this is something that I'm doing with my students. I'm noticing that I've got some students that are not responding right away. Maybe I'll go to my settings gear and I can toggle off display names, maybe just to encourage them to participate in here as well.
Being a shy student, Mish, I feel like that is such a great feature. Like there were so many times that I didn't ask questions or provide an answer because I just didn't want people to look at me, right? So it's really nice to be able to answer
I love
anonymously.
getting that different entry point to participate. Ultimately, they're doing the same thing. They're answering the question, but we're giving now them an option to do it differently instead of raising their hand. Also, a really great way to do it with adults or even high school students. They don't want to raise their hands, but now they can just submit it that way instead. And as a teacher, you see on your screen that they participated later on when you're doing your report cards. You can see when they engage. So for the sake of time, because I want to give everyone a second to take a look at how we build these, I'm going to quickly show you a couple more examples. So this one is a really fun number talk as well. Which number does not belong and why? I love doing this one. Some folks will say 16 because it's an even number. There's just a few different responses here, so it's really fun to see how everyone answers this one. Shout out Michelle Conway for this idea. Going along with my math talk, I also like to bring up pictures for science when I'm introducing a brand new subject. So before we start talking about ecology, maybe I'll bring up this picture, have my students make some predictions, activate some prior knowledge. So this is a really great way to introduce a brand new science topic. Again, just moving through the next few quickly so I can show you how to build one out yourself. Writing process. Shout out to Casey for this awesome idea. So here, as maybe we're doing some independent time, writing out some essays, the students would just submit their name as their response. And then as they're working, they can come up to the screen and they can drag their name from introduction, body, or closing to let the teacher know where they're at so the teacher doesn't have to quickly ask everyone, where are we at in our writing process? A really nice way to make sure that they've completed all 3 steps. You can adapt this also to younger students, maybe as you're teaching them to follow multi-step directions. They follow step 1, then step 2, then step 3. So a few different ways you can use this really awesome idea that Casey gave out. And this should be my last one. This is our Clear Skies check-in. So this is a really great exit ticket to do in class. After you introduce a new concept, after we did some learning today, how are you feeling? Clear skies means I understood the concept. Cloudy skies, I got it. I need a little bit of help. Or foggy is please help me before we move on. So really nice way for students to reflect. This one you would of course do anonymously to get all your students to be comfortable sharing where they're at with their learning. You would get your legend to see which response belongs to who. As you can see here, this came in anonymous. This person says, I think I got it. Looks like they're not totally sure, which is why they put it in cloudy. As a teacher, I can go to my settings gear and see that it was Lois that submitted that response. All right, let's build one, shall we? And look,
Let's do
Lois, I
it.
think you had a
And I,
really good
I love
idea.
how Yeah, I love how no matter where you are in your lesson, if you ever get that deer in the headlights look, like you can always edit your activity to add something else that you know will help your students. One thing that I loved when I was in the classroom is student participation for anything, right? I taught English, reading, and study skills. And I think having students decide what they're going to write about really helps with the writing process. So I would love to use a shout it out to just ask students like what should our journal topic be today? Or what should our journal topic be for this semester? And then go through and choose one every day, right?
So if you were following along as Lois was talking here, I went to the blue add button. Lois had a really great idea, so I just clicked on shout it out. And the question that Lois was asking is, what should our journal topic be this semester? If it's just one question, I'll leave it here. If I had categories, I would click here. Here's where I would decide what contributions my students are making if they're submitting responses via text or images. I can go ahead and toggle how many responses the students can make. And then right from this screen, I can do show or hide student names, but I can also do that on the fly with that settings gear as I showed you. When I click next, I can either do that solid gray screen. Clicking custom is where I can bring in that background. And then that's it. That's how quick it is to build a quick shout it out activity. I go back into my presenter mode. I can start it. And now all of you can engage in Lois's awesome question. What should our journal topic be this semester?
Love that. And I think normally I would put that in text, right? I would have text responses, but I think it might be really interesting to add photos too, right?
So many different ways to
Get really
engage.
descriptive in our journaling.
Exactly. It might be kind of fun to see what images that they bring in just to kind of visualize what their ideas might be. I would think I would maybe do two
Sure.
separate submissions here just to see how it looks.
Yeah. When you started doing that, I was like, you know what? Maybe you need to. Maybe you do.
I love that. All right, before I hand it back over to Asha, this month's Lumio challenge is if you attended Lumio Palooza, share your favorite part of the Lumio of your favorite Lumio Palooza session on socials, and you can hashtag Lumio challenge. If you did not attend Lumio Palooza, all the recordings did get posted today in our Lumio Academy. So if you missed any sessions, you're able to watch those in our Lumio Academy. And with that, I'm passing it back over to Asha. Thank you.
Thank you, Mish. I love the lessons. I love the fact that you showed different age groups as far as the content and subject matter. And Lois, the journaling idea, I like it even for myself. Like it's just to come up with ideas on what I want to journal about. So awesome, awesome lesson. Thank you all for joining us today. And don't forget to go to our socials, go to Lumio, lum.io. If you don't already have a subscription, you can try it out for free. So definitely do that. And we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. See you guys.